What if the single greatest cause of suffering in your life, every anxiety, every regret, every moment of overwhelming stress, was being generated by a machine that you have mistaken for yourself? There is a mechanism running inside you right now, a relentless narrator that rewrites the past, terrifies you with the future, and completely obliterates the only thing that actually exists. The ancient sages of the Himalayas knew about it 5,000 years ago. They called it Maya, the grand illusion. Modern quantum physicists like David Bohm hinted at it when they described the explicate order, and contemporary teachers point to it as the root of all human dysfunction. Deep inside this video lies the secret to locating the off switch for this machine. By the end of this journey, you will not only understand why your mind never shuts up, but you will hold the exact 3-step technique to step out of the timeline and reclaim your life. This isn't just psychology. This is the mechanics of reality itself. Most people live their entire lives trapped in a simulation generated by their own biology. The voice you hear in your head when you wake up, the one that comments on your shower, critiques your work, and screams at you when you try to sleep, that voice isn't you. It is a biological survival tool that has gone rogue. Neuroscientists have found that the brain consumes 20% of your body's metabolic energy, and a massive portion of that is spent on the default mode network, a circuit dedicated entirely to thinking about a past that is dead and a future that hasn't happened. You are literally burning your life force to hallucinate problems that do not exist in the present moment. But here is the twist that shocks everyone who truly investigates consciousness. The ancient Vedic texts say that you are not the thinker. You are the Sakshi, the silent witness watching the thinker. When you confuse the two, when you believe you are the voice, you become possessed. You become a character in a movie who forgot he is sitting in the theater. And the price of this amnesia is a lifetime of unnecessary pain. But what happens when a normal person tries to break this spell today? Ready for the first step that changes everything? Imagine a companion who follows you everywhere, 24 hours a day. This companion never sleeps. It stands over your bed at 3 a.m., whispering detailed lists of everything you did wrong in 2014. It follows you into the bathroom, judging the shape of your body in the mirror. It sits on your shoulder during a romantic dinner, not letting you taste the food or hear your partner because it is too busy rehearsing a theoretical argument with your boss for next Tuesday. If this companion were a separate person, a physical human being following you around muttering these things, you would have called the police or fled in terror years ago. You would recognize them as a maniac, a parasite, a monster. Yet because this voice sounds like you, because it uses your vocabulary and knows your deepest insecurities, you accept it, you welcome it, you believe it is you. This is the great cosmic joke, and also the great tragedy of the human condition. We are possessed by a mental entity that we have mistaken for our identity. And because you believe this voice is you, your solution to the suffering it creates is always to try to argue with it. You try to fix what it says. You try to think positively. You try to rationalize your anxiety. But have you noticed that it never works? It is a fight that has no end. It is a war of attrition fought inside your own skull, exhausting and futile. For every negative thought you manage to suppress with logic, 3 new ones sprout in its place like heads of a hydra. For every worry you solve, the mind invents a new angle for disaster. It is like trying to smooth out the waves of a rough ocean by pounding them with a flat iron. The effort itself creates more turbulence. Have you ever looked at certain people, maybe a monk in a documentary, or just a grandmother sitting on a porch, or perhaps a cat sitting perfectly still in a sunbeam, and felt a pang of jealousy at their absolute calm? They face challenges. They deal with illness, loss, and uncertainty, just like you. But there is a core of silence inside them that the chaos of the world cannot touch. When you meet someone like that, the machine in your head immediately starts to generate excuses to protect itself. It says, "Oh, they must have had an easy life," or "They don't care as much as I do," or "They were born with a different brain chemistry." Your mind lies to you. It assumes the difference is in the external circumstances, or in some genetic lottery you didn't win. It convinces you that to have peace, you need to change the content of your life. Get a better job, a better partner, more money, a different house. But what if the difference between a person living in hell and a person living in heaven has nothing to do with what is happening outside, and everything to do with a single invisible shift in perception? The deep and immediate change these calm souls have found does not come from controlling the voice. It comes from understanding a secret about the nature of the mind that most of humanity ignores until their deathbed. The key is not to win the battle against your thoughts. The key is to realize that you were never a soldier in that war to begin with. The secret lies in a dimension of yourself that exists outside of time. Pause for a second, right now. Do not think about pausing, just actually stop. Listen to the narration in your head. Maybe it is saying, "What does he mean?" or "This is interesting," or "I need to check my phone." Whatever it is saying, notice it. There is a voice speaking, and there is you listening to it. This is the most important question you will ever ask yourself. If you can hear the voice in your head, who is the listener? If there is a thought passing through and there is a consciousness noticing the thought, can you be both? Can the camera be the picture it takes? This tiny gap, this microscopic distance between the thinker and the watcher, is the portal. It is the exit door from the matrix. Consider your direct experience right now. You notice the temperature of the room on your skin. You notice the hum of traffic or the silence outside. You notice the colors on this screen. And you also notice your thoughts. They appear in your field of awareness, just like a sound appears in your field of hearing. They rise, they linger, and they dissolve. This points to a staggering metaphysical truth that aligns perfectly with what the great teacher Eckhart Tolle and the ancient Vedanta sages have been saying. There is the mental noise, the relentless stream of recycled past and imaginary future, and then there is the sky, the witness, the consciousness in which the noise happens. The thoughts are just clouds. Some are dark, heavy storm clouds of depression. Some are fast, wispy clouds of distraction. But you, the real you, are the sky itself. The sky is never hurt by the clouds. The sky is never wet by the rain. The sky is never burned by the lightning. It is vast, spacious, and eternally untouched. The root of all your suffering is simply this: you have forgotten you are the sky, and you have convinced yourself you are the cloud. You have fused your sense of I am with a fleeting electrical impulse in your brain. When the voice screams that you are in danger because of an awkward email you sent, you don't recognize it as a passing cloud. You feel the danger in your biology. Your heart races, your stomach churns, your palms sweat. You feel it as an absolute truth because there is no space between you and the thought. You are living inside a movie, strapped into a chair with your eyelids taped open, believing you are the character on the screen being chased by the monster. But you are not the character. You are the screen. You are the light projecting the image. Most of us live and die in this fused state, dragged around by every whim of the mind like a dry leaf in a hurricane. We spend decades trying to rewrite the script of the movie, trying to force the character to be happy, never realizing we could just stand up and walk out of the theater. But why is this illusion so strong? Why is this voice so persistent, so loud, and so terrifyingly convincing? It isn't random. It isn't a mistake. There is a cold biological logic behind it. Your mind thinks it is protecting you. It is operating on an outdated software update from 200,000 years ago. Think of the thinking mind not as a vessel for truth, but as a survival engine. Its original function was brilliant. Scan the environment for threats. Remember where the poisonous berries grow. Predict where the tiger might hide, and solve the problem of staying alive for one more day. It is a machine designed to analyze and predict. It is a difference engine. But this machine was never designed to handle the complexity of modern psychological life. It was designed to run in short bursts to save you from a predator, and then shut down so you could rest. In our modern world, the predator is an unpaid bill. It is a vague look of disapproval from a colleague. It is the uncertainty of the economy. These are not physical threats that can be fought or fled from. So the machine jams. It spins into overdrive, applying life or death urgency to situations that are merely uncomfortable. For your mind, silence is dangerous. The void is terrifying. It operates under the desperate belief that if it stops worrying, if it stops churning, the universe will collapse. If it stops replaying your past mistakes, you will be doomed to repeat them. If it stops obsessively rehearsing the future, you will be caught off guard. It is addicted to time. It creates a phantom timeline, a psychological construct of past and future, and it forces you to live there. Have you ever noticed that the voice is never ever talking about the now? It is impossible for the thinking mind to exist in the present moment. The moment you are fully present, truly tasting your coffee, truly feeling the texture of your steering wheel, truly looking into someone's eyes, the thinking stops. The now is too full, too real, too immediate for the mind to narrate. The now burns the mind like sunlight burns vampires. So the mind flees. It retreats into the dead past or the imaginary future, dragging your consciousness with it. This is what the ancient Greeks called chronos, sequential, devouring time, and it is the prison cell of the human spirit. The mind keeps you in chronos, because in the kairos, the deep, vertical, eternal now, the mind becomes obsolete. In the now, you don't need to simulate reality. You are reality. But the mechanism gets darker. It's not just about time. It's about energy. There is a feedback loop, a parasitic cycle that Eckhart Tolle famously described as the pain body, but which looks suspiciously like what modern physics calls a resonance field. Every time you engage with a negative thought, every time you argue with it or fear it, you feed it. You give it your attention, which is the most potent form of energy in the universe. Arguing with an anxious thought is like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. When the voice says, "You are a failure," and you reply, "No, I'm not, look at what I achieved," you have just lost. You have accepted the premise. You have stepped into the ring with a phantom. You have made the illusion real by treating it as a worthy opponent. This engagement creates an emotional charge in the body, a contraction, a heaviness, a vibration of pain. And here is the terrifying part. The mind loves this pain. The pain body feeds on it. Have you ever noticed that when you are in a bad mood, you almost want to stay in a bad mood? You look for things to be offended by. You dig up old grievances. You listen to sad music. Why? Because the entity of the false self, the ego, strengthens itself through suffering. A happy, peaceful person has very little story. A miserable person has a huge, heavy, dramatic identity. The ego would rather be miserable and significant than peaceful and non-existent. But when a normal person in 2024 tried to break this cycle using a specific technique of anchoring, the results were not just psychological, they were almost supernatural. Have you ever felt a sudden, inexplicable exhaustion the moment you tried to silence your mind? That exhaustion is not physical, it is metaphysical. It is the sound of your life force leaking into a black hole. To understand why this happens, we must look at the mechanism that turns a harmless, abstract thought into a devastating physical reality. This is where the ancient concept of Maya meets modern biochemistry. It is a process that runs so automatically in your system that you have likely never noticed it, yet it dictates the quality of every second you breathe. Think of it as the emotional echo chamber. It always begins with a single thought. Often it is a neutral observation or a vague question, but because you are fused with the machine, because you have forgotten you are the sky, you do not see it as a thought, you see it as a fact. And in that millisecond of unconscious belief, a dark alchemy occurs. The thought stops being a cloud and becomes a command code for your biology. The mind is not just a calculator, it is a storytelling engine. It takes a loose piece of data, perhaps your partner didn't smile when they walked in the door, and it instantly weaves a Greek tragedy. It invents a motive, it drags up evidence from 2018 to support the theory, and it projects a catastrophic future where you are abandoned and alone. It does this in less than a nanosecond. And here is the glitch in the human system that causes all the pain. Your body, the biological animal you inhabit, cannot tell the difference between a real tiger standing in the room and a tiger made of thoughts. When the mind tells a story of danger, the body responds with the chemistry of danger. It dumps cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. Your muscles tense to fight a predator that isn't there. Your digestion shuts down. Your heart hammers against your ribs. The cycle is brutal and self-sustaining. The thought creates a story. The story creates an emotion. And the emotion, which is now a physical reality pulsating in your chest, proves to the mind that the danger is real. The mind looks at the shaking body and says, "See, I told you something was wrong." And it generates 3 more catastrophic thoughts to match the intensity of the feeling. This is the pain body awakening. Eckhart Tolle describes this as a semi-autonomous energy form that lives inside you, an entity made of old emotion. When this cycle starts, the pain body is feeding. It is feasting on your adrenaline. It is metabolizing your misery to sustain its own existence. This is why it is so hard to think positive when you are in a downward spiral. You are not just fighting a habit, you are fighting a parasite that is currently eating your lunch. This structure is the architecture of all human suffering. It is never the traffic that stresses you. Traffic is just cars on asphalt. It is the story that I am going to be late, and they will think I am irresponsible, and I will lose respect. It is not the silence of a friend that hurts. Silence is just the absence of sound. It is the story of "I am not important to them" that rips your heart open. Pain is inevitable. It is part of the fabric of organic life. But suffering is a choice. Suffering is the narrative layer we paint over the pain. Pain is, "I lost my job." Suffering is, "I am a failure and I will never be safe again." If you watch closely, and this requires the precision of a hawk watching a field mouse, you will see that the voice in your head is allergic to the present moment. It avoids the now as if it were poison. Why? Because in the now, stories dissolve. The now is factual, it is sensory, it is immediate. Right now you are watching this screen. You feel the weight of gravity holding you to the chair. You hear the ambient noise. There is no problem in this exact millisecond. You are breathing. You are alive. You are safe. To create a problem, you must leave the now and travel to the phantom timeline of memory or imagination. This is why simple things like sinking your feet into wet sand, or the shock of cold water on your face, or the intense focus of a physical sport feel so incredibly healing. In those moments, the sheer intensity of the sensation forces you out of the cinema of the mind and slams you back into the reality of the body. The narration breaks, the timeline collapses, and for a brief, shining moment, you are free. You are just being. But what happens when the moment passes? The machine reboots. The gravity of the default mode network pulls you back into the simulation. Most people spend their entire lives in this oscillation, brief moments of accidental presence followed by long, grey stretches of mental imprisonment. They believe that they are trapped by their circumstances. They think, "If I just solve this problem, then I will be quiet. If I just get that amount of money, the voice will stop." They spend 50, 60, 70 years rearranging the furniture inside their prison cell, painting the walls different colors, changing the drapes, never realizing that the door was never locked. The door is not locked because the walls are made of smoke. They are made of thought, and thought has no substance until you give it your attention. This is the great secret of the mystics, from the Zen masters of Japan to the desert fathers of Egypt. You are not the prisoner of your life situation. You are the prisoner of your identification with the story of your life situation. Freedom is not a destination you reach when you have fixed everything. Freedom is a shift in frequency. It is the act of stepping back from the screen and realizing you are the audience. It is the realization that the voice screaming "I am trapped" is just another cloud passing through the vast, empty blue sky of your true nature. But knowing this intellectually is one thing. Living it when your boss is yelling at you, or when your bank account is empty, or when your heart is breaking is a completely different challenge. How do you actually step out of the illusion when the illusion feels more real than the ground beneath your feet? How do you cut the wire of the pain body when it is fully charged? There is a protocol, a specific actionable sequence of internal moves that acts like a circuit breaker. It doesn't require you to be a monk, and it doesn't require you to chant in a cave for 30 years. It is a 3-step maneuver that you can execute in the middle of a meeting, in the middle of an argument, or in the middle of the night. It is a glitch you introduce into the system to break the loop. But be warned, the first time you try this, your mind will fight back with a level of aggression you are not expecting. It will scream that you are being irresponsible, that you need to worry, that you are ignoring the threat. Have you ever tried to stop a spinning wheel with your bare hands and felt the friction burn your skin? To understand the solution, we must look at a discovery made not by psychologists, but by quantum physicists. In the 20th century, scientists like John Wheeler and David Bohm began to suggest that the universe is participatory. The observer is not passive. The act of observation changes the thing being observed. In the quantum world, a wave function only collapses into a particle when it is measured. When you apply this principle to your inner world, the implications are mind-bending. Your pain body, your anxiety, your looping thoughts, they behave exactly like quantum wave functions. As long as you are unconsciously merged with them, they run on autopilot, creating havoc. But the moment you bring the specific quality of witnessing presence to them, they change. They cannot survive the direct light of pure consciousness. This brings us to the technique. The ancient texts might have called it vipassana or neti-neti, but for the modern mind, we need something tactical. We call it the notice, name, anchor protocol. It is not a technique to fight the mind. Remember, fighting is fuel. If you try to silence the voice, you are just adding more noise. "I need to stop thinking" is just another thought. You cannot solve the mind with the mind. You must step outside the system entirely. Imagine you have just finished a difficult interaction, maybe a confrontation with a family member. You walk away, and immediately the machine starts. I should have said this, they are so selfish. Why does this always happen to me? I can't handle this. The heat rises in your face. The chest tightens. You are in the cell. Step 1 is the most difficult because it requires you to wake up inside the dream. You must notice. You must catch the machine in the act. But you don't just notice the thought, you notice the mechanism. You say to yourself, with the clinical detachment of a scientist looking at bacteria under a microscope, "Ah, I see. The machine is running the victim story script again." Do not underestimate the power of this simple shift. In the moment you say, "I see the machine," you have separated yourself from the machine. You are no longer the victim. You are the seer of the victim. You have introduced a gap, a crack in the wall. Step 2 is name. But we are going to use a specific type of naming that comes from the Vedanta tradition of neti neti. Not this, not this. You are going to reaffirm your true position. You say internally, "This voice is not me. I am the one listening to it." This is not an affirmation. You are not trying to convince yourself of a lie. You are stating a fact of physics. The listener cannot be the sound. The observer cannot be the object. By doing this, you strip the thought of its authority. A moment ago, the thought, "I am ruined," was a command from God. Now it is just a string of words passing through a biological computer. It is noise. It is static on the radio. It has no power over you unless you decide to pick it up and wear it. But here is where most people fail. They notice, they name, and then they get sucked back in because the emotional charge, the adrenaline, is still fizzing in their blood. The thought might be gone, but the feeling remains, and the feeling will generate new thoughts if it isn't grounded. This is why the third step is the most critical component of the ritual. It is the anchor. The mind lives in time. The body lives in the now. To leave the mind, you must enter the body. You cannot fight a ghost with a sword, but you can dissolve a ghost by turning on the lights of the physical world. You must deliberately, aggressively move your attention away from the abstract screen of the mind and fuse it with a physical sensation. This is not relaxation. This is intense concentration. You focus 100% of your attention on the soles of your feet. Feel the texture of the sock. Feel the pressure against the floor. Feel the heat. Or you focus on your hands. Feel the life energy vibrating in your fingertips. Or you listen. Listen to the room. Don't label the sounds. That's a car. That's a fan. Just hear the raw vibration of the sound waves hitting your eardrum. Why does this work? Because the human brain, for all its complexity, has a limited bandwidth of attention. It cannot run a high-definition simulation of a disaster in the future and fully process the sensory data of the present moment at the same time. It is a biological impossibility. By flooding your attentional channels with now data, you starve the then machine. You cut the power cord. When you do this, notice, name, anchor, something miraculous happens. The storm doesn't necessarily disappear instantly, but it loses its teeth. The panic attack transforms into a mere physical vibration. The end of the world becomes just a tightness in the solar plexus. You have stepped out of the story and back into reality. But what happens when you do this 1,000 times? What happens when the gap between you and the mind becomes permanent? The ancient scrolls describe a state of being that sounds impossible to modern ears, yet neuroscientists in 2023 accidentally replicated the exact brainwave signature of this state in a laboratory setting. In late 2023, a series of neuroimaging studies on advanced practitioners of non-dual meditation revealed something that shocked the materialist worldview. They expected to see brains that were asleep or in a deep trance. Instead, they found the opposite. The brains of these individuals were operating in a state of high-amplitude gamma synchrony, a frequency associated with peak performance, hyperlucidity, and the integration of information from all parts of the brain simultaneously. But the real anomaly was in the default mode network, the exact circuit we talked about earlier, the one responsible for the me story, the autobiographical narration of past and future. In these individuals, this network had gone dark. It was offline. Yet, they were fully conscious, able to talk, laugh, and solve problems. This is the biological signature of the Sakshi, the witness. It proves that the voice in your head is not necessary for consciousness. In fact, the voice is an interference pattern that blocks the higher signal. The ancient Sanskrit texts called this state Turiya, the fourth state, beyond waking, dreaming, and sleeping. It is the state of being the sky, not the clouds. And it turns out, this isn't just spiritual poetry, it is a measurable, tangible optimization of the human hardware. But if this state is so superior, if it brings such peace and clarity, why do we resist it so violently? Why 5 minutes after practicing the anchor, do you find yourself sprinting back into the mental prison cell, eagerly picking up the whip of worry to beat yourself with it again? The answer is terrifyingly simple. You are addicted to your own suffering, or more accurately, the entity you think is you, the ego, is addicted to it. The ego is nothing but a bundle of memories and anticipations. It has no reality in the now. If you stop thinking about your past and stop worrying about your future, the little me begins to dissolve. It starts to die. And to the ego, the present moment feels like death. Silence feels like an abyss. This is why you grab your phone the second you are alone in an elevator. This is why you turn on the TV the moment you walk into an empty house. This is why you create drama in your relationships when things are going too well. You are terrified of the silence because in the silence, the false self cannot survive. You are filling the void with noise because you haven't realized yet that the void is not empty. It is full. It is the womb of existence. It is the source of all intelligence, all creativity, all love. But to access it, you have to pay the price. And the price is your story. You have to be willing to give up the narrative that I am the victim of my childhood, or I am the anxious one, or I am the one who is always misunderstood. Have you ever noticed that you secretly love your problems? When you call a friend, what is the first thing you talk about? You trade pain stories. You say, "You won't believe what happened to me," and they reply, "That's nothing. Listen to what happened to me." It is a marketplace of misery. We use our suffering to build our identity. We use it to say, "I exist. Look at my scars. Look at my complex life." If you were to drop all your problems right now, completely, and creating a total vacuum of silence, who would you be? That question scares the hell out of the unobserved mind. It creates a vertigo of identity. And so, we run back to the familiar misery of the mind because it feels safer than the unknown vastness of the now. This brings us to the greatest illusion of all, the illusion of time as a means of salvation. The mind convinces you that the now is just a stepping stone. It is just an obstacle to get past so you can reach the future, where everything will finally be okay. This is the when-then trap. When I get the promotion, then I will be peaceful. When the kids grow up, then I will relax. When I find my soulmate, then I will be complete. You live your life leaning forward, always 15 degrees tilted into the next moment, treating the present moment as a means to an end. But notice this paradox. The future never arrives. It literally cannot happen. When the event you are waiting for finally happens, where does it happen? It happens in the now. When you get the promotion, you experience it in the now. When you die, you will die in the now. Life is always now. It has never been not now. By living for a future salvation, you are living for a ghost. You are missing the only life you actually have. This one, right here, with the breath moving in your chest and the light hitting your eyes. The ancient Vedic sages called this Maya, not because the world isn't real, but because the way we perceive it through the lens of time is a hallucination. There is a vertical dimension to reality that cuts through the horizontal timeline of past and future. This vertical dimension is the deep now. When you use the notice, name, anchor technique, you are not just calming down, you are pivoting from the horizontal to the vertical. You are accessing a source of intelligence that is not linear. Think about the times in your life where you performed at your absolute best. Maybe it was in a crisis where you acted without thinking. Maybe it was playing music. Maybe it was during intimacy. In those moments, was the voice talking? Was it saying, "Okay, now move your left hand, now do this"? No, the voice was silent. You were in flow. You were connected to something faster and smarter than the thinking mind. That intelligence is always there. It is hidden behind the curtain of the noise. The mystery we are hunting today is you. Not the you on your driver's license, but the you that was there before you were born and will be there after you die, the silent observer. But here is the twist that usually breaks the logical mind. The more you try to find this true self, the further away it seems to get. You read the books, you do the meditations, you try to kill the ego, but the ego is the one doing the trying. It masks itself as the spiritual seeker. It says, "I am going to be the best meditator in the world. I am going to become enlightened." So how do you bypass this final trap? How do you stop the policeman from dressing up as the thief? You don't try to stop him. You don't try to change him. You simply shine the light of awareness on him, and you realize something that changes the game entirely. You realize that the thinker doesn't actually exist. It is a phantom process, not a solid entity. And once you see that, the prison walls don't just open, they vanish. But what I am about to tell you next comes from a forbidden text that was removed from the public eye for centuries, describing the exact moment of death, not as an end, but as the final collapse of the time illusion. The text is known as the Bardo Thodol, or the Tibetan Book of the Dead. For centuries, Western scholars thought it was a guidebook for the afterlife, a map for the soul traveling from one body to the next. But when you apply the lens of modern consciousness research, a shocking secondary meaning emerges. The text isn't just about physical death, it is a manual for the psychological death of the ego in the present moment. It describes the first thing that happens when the body drops away, the appearance of the clear light of reality. This light is described as terrifyingly bright, roaring like 1,000 thunders, yet absolutely empty. It is the raw, unfiltered experience of the universe as it actually is, pure, timeless awareness. The text says that if the soul can recognize this light as its own true nature, it is instantly liberated. It merges with the infinite. The illusion of time dissolves. But, and this is the detail that explains your entire life, most souls are terrified of the light. They recoil from it. The vastness of the silence feels like annihilation. So out of fear, they run away from the peace and sprint toward the dim lights of the 6 realms of existence. They choose to be reborn into suffering because suffering feels familiar. They choose the prison cell because the open sky is too big. Do you see the parallel? This is exactly what happens to you every time you pick up your phone to avoid a moment of boredom. This is exactly what happens when you choose to argue with your partner instead of sitting in the uncomfortable silence of forgiveness. You are recoiling from the clear light of the now and running back into the dim light of the mind. You are choosing the familiar hell of the me story over the unfamiliar heaven of presence. The ultimate secret, the diamond thunderbolt of the ancient mystics, is that you do not have to wait for physical death to meet the clear light. You can practice dying right now. You can die to the past. You can die to your grievances. You can die to the image of who you think you are. Every time you execute the notice name anchor protocol, you are practicing a micro-death. You are killing the false self so the real self can breathe. You are stepping out of the timeline and into the eternal. And the more you do this, the more you realize that the thinker, that neurotic, chatty, terrified little voice, was never really you. It was just a program, a useful biological app that you forgot to close. The journey we have taken today is not about self-improvement. Self-improvement is just the ego trying to get better furniture for its prison cell. This is about self-realization. It is about realizing you are not the cell, you are not the furniture, and you are not the prisoner. You are the space in which the prison sits. You are the awareness that illuminates the scene. So, here is the challenge I leave with you today. The next time the storm clouds gather, the next time the voice tells you that you are not enough or that the future is bleak or that you are in danger, do not fight it. Do not argue with the ghost. Stop. Notice the machine running. Name it. I hear the voice, but I am the listener. And then anchor yourself. Feel the life in your hands. Feel the gravity in your feet. Listen to the silence behind the noise. It will be uncomfortable at first. The ghost will scream. But if you hold your ground, if you stay in the vertical dimension of the now, you will discover the peace that passes all understanding. You will discover that you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a drop. And in that realization, the war is over. Have you ever wondered if the silence you are running from is actually the only place where you will finally find yourself? If this message resonated with the silent observer behind your eyes, do not just consume it and scroll away. Anchor this realization. Click the subscribe button not as a digital habit, but as a signal to the algorithm of your own life that you are choosing truth over noise. Leave a comment below with the words, "I am the sky," to declare your shift in perspective. Share this video with someone who is currently trapped in the storm. Until next time, keep watching the clouds, but remember who is the sky.